Temple Hospital with those families, and I've been in direct conversation with throughout the weekend as we get a series of updates. I had the honor and the pleasure of meeting our officer's family yesterday as I spent a few hours at Temple Hospital, and what an amazing, strong family he has. And so I continue to ask that you and the community and others continue to pray for their family as they stand by his side, supporting him throughout this process. And most importantly, I want to thank the community. I can't tell you how many text messages, calls from both here locally, in the region, and nationally, lending their prayers and support for our officers. That means a lot to us in law enforcement, and I know across my colleagues and many of those who have received those calls, I am so appreciative for that. And I also am very thankful. I know I have the inspector and the captain of the East Division here, Inspector Luca and Captain Wheeler, who have been at the side. Captain has been there all day. I don't think he's been home. This may have been the first time he broke away from the hospital. They have been on there. That night, I could not be more proud of the men and women. Despite the tragic events, they continue to work doggedly to go after the individual who shot our officer. Through that support of the officers, our homicide detectives, our shooting investigative group, but more importantly, I have partners here today from ATF and ATF and FBI who are on the ground with us supporting through this process. It is through that collective effort, working through this process, and as we move into the charging phase with the DA's office, that we're able to bring this individual to justice. And so what I'll do now, I will pass over to Commissioner Venor. He will give you an overview of the investigation timeline, where we are in this process, and then we'll give it over to the District Attorney's Office, who will talk through the charging and the steps moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. So I'm going to give you a little more detail than we were able to give you on Saturday evening into what occurred. As I tell you, we're still investigating, and the District Attorney's in the process of prosecuting, so some questions may not be able to be answered at this point. Approximately 7:18 p.m. on Saturday evening, two 25th District officers conducted a vehicle investigation in the 3500 block of F Street. That stop involved a 2003 dark blue Toyota Echo. During the course of that stop, it became knowledgeable to the officers that this was going to be a live stop, so meaning that we were going to call for a tow truck and confiscate the vehicle. The reason for that was that our operator, and we now know who that was, is our offender, Ramon Rodriguez, 36-year-old, did not have a license. The vehicle was not registered, and it didn't have any other paperwork along with it. So as part of that, they called for a parking authority tow truck to be dispatched to the scene. Now, what we do know now is that tow truck must have been very close because it was in there within minutes. Simultaneously to all that happening, our operator of the vehicle, our offender, makes a phone call. We now know that he calls some individuals, tells them that he stopped and he's about to lose the vehicle, and two females, two 33-year-old females and a 37-year-old male do come to the scene in a separate car. They park and they walk to where the stop's occurring. So when the tow truck pulled up, it looked like they just got out of the car. We had thought they were in the car with them. That was not true. They came there and met them, and they were there during the course of the stop. Now, we have a lot of video that we've examined for this investigation. A lot of what I'm telling you is based on video. The stop occurred from 7:18, and it went on for about 30 minutes or so. They're speaking Spanish during most of the stop, back and forth with the officers. But at some point, the officers told the offender that they were going to inventory the car. Once they inventoried a section, they could remove any items they wished to remove. So the three individuals and the offender, once they looked at the trunk, they were taking items from the trunk. The officers were checking other areas, inventorying it, writing it on their tow slip to turn it over to the tow truck operator. At some point during that inventory, one of the offenders sees on the floorboard of the car what appeared to be a holster. He picks up the holster, he looks at the holster, he shows his partner the holster, and then they call for the offender to say, "We got to talk to you." And they're walking over to him. At that point, he's carrying some items that he'd taken from the car, places him down on the ground, and he flees on foot. They immediately go in pursuit and attempt to stop him. While he's in the middle of the street, without any provocation, he turns and he fires 3 shots towards the officers. All right. We know now that his partner fired at least 1 time during the incident. At that point, in the video, you see the partner turns and sees that his partner is down. He immediately begins to render aid and attempts to put him in the car to get him to the hospital. Something else we do know now is our tow truck driver was really integral in helping get him into the car and get him to the hospital so fast. And then he stayed on the scene, guarding that scene pretty much for us until other officers arrived. Looking after that, the video evidence that we recovered, you see that the offender then flees on foot. You see him running. You see him at certain points, he has the gun out in his hand while he's running. He goes to a garage we now know is on G Street. At some point while he's in front of that garage, he takes the white shirt that you may have seen in pictures that are out there off. He discards it on the sidewalk. He has another shirt underneath, a darker shirt. He attempts to enter a garage. Whoever was in there, we're not sure what occurred, but he didn't get entry. He was told to go away. He left. He immediately kept running on foot. When he gets to G and Tioga, the intersection of G and Tioga, there's a maroon, what appears to us to be a minivan going through the intersection. He's on the passenger side of this car. In our opinion, in watching the video, he pulls the door, he opens the door. It looks like he's attempting to take that vehicle over. The operator took off, never got into that vehicle. We do not know who was inside that car. We'd love to talk to them. So if someone's watching this, knows who that may have happened to, we're urging them to give us a call in the homicide division so we could talk to them. Then he continues running on foot, and he gets to, at a very short time later, it's about 15 minutes from the shooting to when this occurs. He arrives in the 800 block of East Schiller. There's an individual he encounters in his 20s sitting on the front step, just having a drink, minding his business. He produces the gun. He forces that individual into his home and holds him at gunpoint, asks him for certain things while inside. At some point while inside, he permits that individual to leave. So that individual does come out of the house. He sees the area, which has now been saturated with police officers looking for the individuals. This direction he went. He tells them that he's inside, and it becomes a barricaded situation, which our SWAT unit gets to. They are able to, in a pretty short time, get him out of the house without any incident occurring and take him into custody. Our detectives served several warrants as part of this investigation. One of them was on that property, and we did recover a firearm inside that property, Glock 26, 9mm. So at this point, the individual's been arrested and charged. I'm going to ask District Attorney Krasner to go over the charging and what the charges are.
Thank you. I'm going to ask at this time Jeff Hoshanowski, who is Assistant Chief of the Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, Bob Wainwright, who is in our Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit and has been a prolific and very successful trial lawyer there, and also Nicole Hall, who is the Victim Witness Coordinator specifically assigned to this case, to come up and stand with me. In a moment, I will turn over to the 2 attorneys here, reading through the charges. There are a total of 3 cases, discussing the bail, which totals at this time $12,500,000. I'll let them cover those details, but I do want to say a few things before that. First of all, I want you to know we got the A team here. We fully intend to very vigorously prosecute this case. We are already looking at a very solid, very capable, very well done investigation that will only be stronger as some of the forensics come back. I want everyone to understand that what this family has gone through is unspeakable. It is unacceptable that we cannot have this in this city for this family. We cannot have it for law enforcement officers in general. We cannot have this happening in our communities. And my office intends to do everything we can to support this victim, this victim's family, this victim's fellow officers, law enforcement in general, and the communities that are most affected. I have seen the video compilation. I was with the mayor, with the police commissioner, with other police and law enforcement personnel at the Temple Hospital Saturday night. My team was up there this morning, having very direct communication, introducing themselves, exchanging cell phone numbers with the family of the victim just this morning. And we are all of the same mind, which is that we are outraged, we are heartbroken by this horrific incident. I would now like to call forward ADA Hoshnowski and ADA Wainwright to go over the details of the charges in this case.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start off with the charges for the attempted murder of police, for which there are 2 cases. We have reviewed the evidence in this case, the investigation, and the charges that we feel appropriate at this time, and understand that we have the right to amend at any point if additional charges are warranted. But at this time, we've charged this defendant with 2 counts of attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, both of which are felonies of the first degree, 2 counts of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, both are felonies of the first degree, several violations of the Uniform Firearm Act, 2 of which are felonies, one's a misdemeanor, possession of an instrument of crime, tampering with physical evidence, obstructing the administration of law, false ID to police, recklessly endangering another person, 2 counts of that, and evading arrest or detention on foot, which is a felony of the third degree. Now, with respect to the separate complainant, which I'll call the home invasion case, we've charged the defendant with burglary, a felony of the first degree, kidnapping, a felony of the first degree, criminal trespass, a felony of the third degree, unlawful restraint, possession of an instrument of crime, terroristic threats, simple assault, and recklessly endangering another person. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wainwright with respect to the bail in this case.
Okay. Thank you. So bail was requested in the amount of $25 million. Bail was set at this point at $12.5 million. So that's where bail is. And as you may already know, bail is defendants are entitled to bail, with the exception of very few serious crimes, with the exception of murder. So, of course, bail can be changed based on factors. At this point, the defendant is in on high bail, $12.5 million. And I will add that, while he was inside this house, he was on the phone, and we have reason, evidence is showing that he was trying his best to make plans just to get out of Philadelphia. So anyway, bail is set high. I want to add too that ADA Hoshnowski and I had the opportunity to view the video in this case. It was amazing work by the police officers and the detectives who responded. And also what's apparent from watching this video is just how heroic these officers are. The victim in this case, his fellow officer, are just true heroes. They're handling this situation the way anyone could possibly hope police officers would be handling a situation like this. And then the response by the detectives and the police officers, basically getting what we have is a clear trail of video from the body camera through, as you heard Commissioner Venor explain, we see this defendant's actions all the way through, trying to find refuge in the garage, disposing of his shirt, trying to get into a car, and eventually holding this guy hostage in his own home. It's just an absolutely despicable, cowardly act. And it is caught on video on the body cam, so you can see just how brave these officers are and how cowardly this defendant acted.
Final point, I also want to make sure I give credit to Chief of our Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, Joanne Pescator, who has worked tirelessly on this case and is now in the middle of a jury trial, so she could not be here. and also to Parker Nelson, who immediately went to the scene where this occurred, consistent with his obligatory duties. Commissioner Bethel?
All right, so we'll open for questions. As I indicated, I'll preface from the beginning, we're very limited in what we can share, but we will, Eric, you want to work the room, and I'll let you go. All of it, all inclusive.
Okay, so you have kind of what happened outside of the house with the home invasion victims?
Yes.
And the only other question is, the home invasion victim, were they taken to the hospital? Were they injured?
I don't believe there was any injuries to them. They were part of the investigation, but I don't believe there was any injury to them.
This individual on the license carry,
Did the who?
did the shooter have a license?
No,
Any idea where he comes from?
no.
And had he, it sounded like there was some cooperation in the beginning, and had he not run, had this not happened, the worst
There was,
case example?
I mean, when you talk about senseless, this is the most senseless you can ever imagine. The officers are engaged for almost 20 minutes. There is no elevation to it. The individual is walking around. He had a number of opportunities and chose not to. And oftentimes we find individuals in this case have already made a decision what they're going to do when pinned into a position. I don't know if that was the case here. We'll find that out in trial. But there was absolute, if you saw the conversations, there's a great exchange in Spanish between our officer and talking to the, I mean, it's just a normal stop, nothing that would give you the rise to take the action that ultimately occurred.
Anyway, sorry, the other three charged, the other three people that were there, that's still part of the investigation?
They're part of the investigation, but I don't think any charges have been levied against them at this point. Yeah, out of respect, as you saw, in speaking with the family, they asked that we keep that. We understand that it's already been, that he's on a respirator. He's in a battle, but they asked us not to share any additional information, but to continue to ask the community for their prayers. That's not more for me to venture into that space. My expectation that anyone who kills a cop should be charged with the highest charges as possible. But I'll leave that for others to determine. Right now, we continue to stay focused on our officer and on his health and his well-being.
Does this shooting make you rethink the strategy to send young officers with not much experience into Kensington, a place where struggle is a dangerous place to see?
As I shared with you, I joined this department 38 years ago. I've seen officers who've been both shot and unfortunately killed across the entire city of Philadelphia. Individuals who make the decision to kill our officers or shoot or kill other people are not just in Kensington. We have areas across our entire city, and I've seen that throughout my entire career. And so, we understand the dangers of this job. We will continue forth with not just that strategy, but the men and women who get up every day. That night, men and women across the city continue to work. And they will never stop doing the work and the charge and the service that they give to the city. And so we will not be deterred by anyone. And we will continue to maintain and continue to follow our charge as honor, integrity, and service, and to serve this city in the way we feel the best to do that. And so we will never be deterred in our work.
Just quickly, the Glock that was recovered, do you believe that is the weapon that was used in the incident?
We don't have that information at this time.
My question is for Mr. Krasner. Do you have the nationality of the suspect, and what message you can send to the Hispanic community in regard to this case? In Spanish, is it possible?
Okay. in English and then in Spanish. I'm not going to comment on the nationality of the defendant at this time, but I will say that justice is going to be even-handed and that every group of people, no matter who they are, is going to be protected by law enforcement in Philadelphia. No voy a comentar sobre la nacionalidad del señor que es el defendiente en este caso, pero lo que voy a decir a la comunidad hispana, la comunidad latina, es que vamos a proteger a todo el mundo, a miembros de cada grupo que hablan en cualquier lengua.
One second, I do want to follow up, but just make sure you're clear when I come back to with my strong statement. We understand the complexity of our men and women, especially our young officers going down. So we are doing some different modeling with them as we continue to onboard them into the space. So I don't want to give you the impression in my response that we're not working with our young officers or going into their footbeats, no matter whether it be in Kensington or anywhere in the city. We are doing some different modeling with these individuals because of their deployment being so, and coming out of the academy and such a closeness to this incident on Saturday. So we do recognize in this case that we are going to do some things not differently. They're still going to be deployed, but the team is working behind the scenes to be able to onboard them in a different way. Well, I think that's an internal operational process that we're going through now, but just to make sure clearly young officers coming out the first weekend into their deployment, and we have an officer shot, has a significant impact on the entire department, no matter how much time you have on the job, but most importantly for a new group of men and women who just come out, particularly in the area that they're going to be deployed. So I apologize. I don't want you to think that I just wanted to convey to you our work and our charge, but for this individual group, we will be doing a little bit different as we onboard them into their work. All right. Again, thank you, everyone. We're not the officer. We're not releasing. The family has asked us, and again, I started out my appreciation to the media for your support. I continue to ask you to support. I mean, you understand. They are in a place right now where the only focus is on their loved one. Whenever we release the name, then that just opens the floodgates of everyone. And they just don't, they're asking us to honor that. I ask that you honor that in your work. And many of you have done that. I just ask that you appreciate if you continue to do that.